can solve for equations that you have stored on the graphing calculator. For example, if I press the y equals button and I'm in function mode here and I enter in a couple of functions, let's try 2x plus 1 and then something else. Let's try 3x plus, and now I'm going to use alpha letters. By pressing the alpha button, get A, and then minus 2 alpha, and then the letter B. So now what do I have? Well, I have these two equations, right? And I have different variables for each equation. And notice over here that the calculator gives default names for each equation. I could use these names to recall these equations and solve for them later. I don't have to enter the equation over again. That would be crazy. So how do I do that? Well, if I press the math button and I scroll to the bottom here, notice it says solver. Well, if I click that, it wants me to enter an equation, and the default on this calculator sets it equal to 0. So if I want to recall that equation I just entered, that's treated as a variable. I click VARS, that's the variables button. I scroll over to the right, that's the y variables. I can call up functions, parametric equations, and polar equations. And by pressing enter for function, it gives me the list of default names that the calculator produces, right? You can scroll through them, basically 1 through 10, or 1 through 9 and then 0. Well, if I want to use y1, that was the first equation I entered, I just hit enter, and now that equation's entered. This is especially nice for complicated equations. So now if I want to solve for x, I'm hovering over the x value here, I just hit alpha and then enter, and it will solve for x. So this is saying that x is negative 5 when y is 0. It solves for x, and here it's subtracting the left and right hand sides of the equation, getting 0. That means it's balanced. And here the bound is just the domain in which the calculator searches for answers. It's an enormous bound here, and you can narrow it down if you want quicker results. It's going from 1 times 10, negative 1 times 10 to the 99th power, and up to 1 times 10 to the 99th power, or other words, from negative 1 with 99 zeros all the way up to 1 with 99 zeros. This huge range of numbers. So you can narrow that down. But let's go up and press up twice to go back to your original equation solver. Press the VARS button, or variables button, and let's recall the second function. Let's work with that. So here, if you remember, this had 3 variables. So the calculator automatically pulls out the 3 variables in the equation. And in this, if you want to solve, right, for a variable, you need values for the 2 other numbers. So let's say x is negative 1 and a is 2. Now, since I've left b blank, if I'm hovering over b and I hit alpha enter, the calculator will solve for b when a is 2 and x is negative 1. Remember, with 3 variables and 1 equation, you need to assign values to those 2 variables in order to get a concrete number as an answer. And that's what's happening here. So, and you could solve for any of the other ones as well. You can change the values of b and x and then solve for a, and so forth. That choice is yours. Just enter in 2 of the values for 2 of the variables. Alright, hope this helped.